All right, so just finishing up the trunk area. I mentioned I was gonna come test fit this again. See, it's off the engine stand. The spare transmission is mounted up. It's just the casing for it, so it's pretty light. Bolted up the motor mounts, so we could somewhat see how those are going to fit in here, where they're going to go. I can start marking that. What I did, ran this line from the yoke on the rear end to the front. I'm pretty sure it's straight because I ran the center line of the car, just the plumb blob, and about 1 inch off, which that's what it's supposed to be with the 9-inch. How the pumpkin sits, or the yoke sits in the pumpkin, it's offset to the passenger side by 1 inch. So have those marked, and well, that's where I marked it. The line, I was pulling it, I had it over the top when I marked it. So yeah, that's pretty much center, and then that's where the center of the motor or transmission, the pretty much the drive line, the center of everything should be. So I'll slide it in there. I might have to cut a little bit of the floor out on this side and see if we get the motor mounts mocked up in place, or see where we need to trim them up and go from there. But yeah, so let's get this out of the way. Everything else should be good. Might need to move that jack. I think those other 2 jacks have been there, so those should be good. Car is nice and stable. There's still little things here and there I need to knock out. Ooh, little critter in there. But yeah, so that line is ran. We'll get everything lined up and see where we need to go. I guess if that is covered up, and just go 1 inch off of here and we should be good. I have to keep into mind the oil pan will be a little bit lower. I could mount that up, but I don't feel like it. If I need to check for clearance, I'll get it out of the box, hold it up there, see if it fits or not. If not, I know the motor will need to come up a little bit. But yeah, I was supposed to order the cam kit and everything else for it, but it gets a little pricey. So I did order the bearings, have the oil pan, have the rocker arms, the tensioner. Still need to order the cam, the DOD delete, the VVT delete, and the oil pump. Most of that comes with new gaskets. I'll do the little barbell, I'll do the rear main seal, and then probably throw some rings in it. But now, I'll just speed it up if it takes too long, but it should just go in there fairly easy.
Stacking every month, put that work in, I deserve to stand. Bring the baddies to the front. It's the type of life that I want. It's the type of life that I want. It's the type of life that I want. Yeah. It's the type of life that I want. It's the type of life that I want. Look, I deserve some time away. I feel good cause I'm posted.
Alright, so I'm about to cut a little bit of the floor out like I mentioned. It's right along there. Cut that out. Should be able to slide over slightly. Even though, let's see. Yeah, well, I don't know. It's pretty close. I still have to mess with it. Yeah, like right there's maybe ½ an inch over. But yeah, let me cut that section of the floor out, then I'll cut you guys back on once I jack the rear of the transmission up, get everything level, and we'll go from there. Alright, so it's starting to get a little dark. We'll pretty much clean this area, get the bike back in, and call it a day. But this is just rough estimates of where the motor will go. Like I said, I might shift a little bit to each side. What I'm not looking forward to is this side though. With it being offset, these motor mounts are going to be pretty short. So I gotta get it right. That's a little dark in there. But yeah, it's a lot closer to the cross member than I was thinking. So these will have to be cut down pretty short. So it's not gonna leave a lot of room for error. For this side, like I said, it's gonna pretty much be a whole thing. I trim it down a little bit, but not much. Just checking the angle on the motor. They're about a degree off right now. Like I said, I'll still mess with it a little bit, try to get it right. But I did put the oil pan on, kept it in the plastic, just ran some bolts through. So a little bit of clearance in there. Get my finger through there, so enough clearance. But yeah, we're definitely going to have to do a lot of cutting on this inside. I'll grab my other light if I can find it right away. Just keep the phone out. I guess the phone it is. So you guys see how high the transmission is going to be, which, like I said, it might, well, I don't think I can drop it too much more from the oil pan, so it's pretty much how high it's going to be. We'll have to build a transmission tunnel, cover the whole thing, but this whole section of the floor is going to be raised good 6 to 8 inches maybe. So we'll have to lift all this up, build a transmission tunnel, which obviously will taper down a little bit here. So might not have to modify the seat bracket, but it'll be close. Woo! Let's go ahead and unplug that. It's almost my leg. So it'll taper down, so I don't have to worry about this bracket, but we will have to cut pretty close to it. One of the reasons I haven't really ran any bars to really brace it, you have this bracing it, you have a bar up here bracing it, and now that everything else is in there, it's pretty much braced up, so wasn't worried about it flexing or anything. Alright, so it's been a couple days since I've been out here messing around with the position of the motor and transmission, which I'm still trying to tweak a little bit because it's off. See, the motor's slanted that way a little bit, and then I'm about to square it up. But yeah, we're working on it. We'll get it figured out, and then once we do, I'll just probably clean up this rail so I could get these tacked into place when it's time. But I have to cut down this motor mount here, probably cut down the one on the driver's side also a little bit. But what I'm trying to do is just make sure the angles on the motor are right. Like I said, this one, the way it's sitting now, slope down about 1 to 2 degrees towards the back is what it should be. I think 1 through 3, or in between 1 and 3 degrees is fine. This one I'm talking about, it's down this way about 4 to 5 degrees, so I'm gonna have to rotate that back up and get it centered. So I'll have to pay attention to all that. And then once that's done, I was looking, well, I removed the drive shaft or the rear end, so that's out of place. I might slide it back into place. Forgot what I did that for. Maybe do some more cutting. But with the rear end and the drive shaft, I think you between like 3 degrees max between the difference, so that way when the drive shaft is in there, it's not at an awkward angle. I think the tail housing on the transmission needs to be like the bottom of it be parallel to the top of the rear end, and that should be fine. But yeah, let me mess around with this some more, try to get it all squared up, and hopefully I can get some tacks in and weld the motor mounts in, because like I said, Robbie's gonna need to borrow the engine stand for pulling the motor out of his Impala. But yeah, it's close. It's like right there. I did cut a lot more out of the floor, so this whole section where I think the tilt sensor or some type of security system was mounted in there. Probably won't go back in. And then obviously the emergency brake was mounted there too. So we'll probably mount, or we'll put one back in, but it'll probably be a little bit higher than the stock location. Which what I'm thinking, I think this bar for the seats, the brace, will be okay, but I think everything underneath it will have to be cut out and moved up. So that might be pushing it. We'll see if we have to modify that at all or not. Like I said, the tail housing will come out to about here. The drive shaft, obviously a drive shaft loop, because I'm gonna be right here. Yeah, we'll get it figured out, and I think with the angle that it's at, I think it should clear just fine. If we do have to notch this or pull a hump it or something, we can, but for the most part I think it's good for now. Obviously all back here will most likely have to be cut out, raised up a little bit, and we'll go from there. But yeah, let me try to get this centered and welded into place before I have to take off for work. But if I do have to take off for work, it's no problem. Still have a couple more days till Robbie will drop the engine stand off or the engine hoist off this weekend. So it's Wednesday. Have a few days before this has to be permanently in, but I do want to make sure it's as straight as possible and not going to be thrown off. That way, once I'm driving down the road, a lot of vibrations or anything. So yeah, bear with me. We'll get it knocked out, and hopefully I'll catch you guys on before I take off for work. If not, catch you guys on tomorrow once everything's welded up into place. All right, so I think we got it done. See, got the laser out, so got everything centered, got it marked underneath, and then level side to side. Notice that's 3 degrees slope down, but you got to take into account the car is 1 degree slope down this way because of the garage floor. So this is more like 2 degrees. So we're within that 1 and 3 range. Same thing with the transmission. And then the rear end, like I said, that's adjustable. So right now it's at 4 slope down. So once we adjust it, we could get the pinion angle right. But we have a string running from the yoke to the transmission. And there's some marks up underneath here to have it where it's centered from the yoke to the center of the transmission, which will be right about here. So almost an inch farther than the string is center. Just have a bolt in there lining it up. Like everything's as centered as I can get it. Like I said, with the laser, the string, eyeballing it, measuring, everything's good to go. So like I said, you want it 1 to 3 degrees up and down for the drive shaft. So as long as the tail shaft of the transmission is parallel, so the bottom of the tail shaft is parallel with the top of the yoke, you're good. But you don't want too much of an angle. So between like that 1 to 3, same thing with the side to side. I was worried about that. And I guess same thing you have between like 1 to 3 side to side with the drive shaft. You don't want too much where it wears itself out, but a degree or 2 off. So instead of being straight, if it's slightly off, that's okay too. Just nothing excessive. So right now I got it pretty much straight, or within spec, within those couple degrees. So I'm feeling good about that. Now with the mounts, I thought I was going to cut this down and weld it to the top part. Where these back ones, I might not even cut them. I'll just clean them up and weld them directly to the cross member. And the front ones, I will have to cut down so they can fit. But the back ones, I figured I'd weld them up there. I'll give it the most strength with the most contact area. So I need to clean this up, clean these up, and we're good there. The reason I don't want to move it forward to weld it like so it's flush with the cross member is clearance. So I can fit a finger through it, so I don't want it any closer than that. So I figure that would be enough room for getting it in and out if I had to. So we're good there. The front, obviously a little bit more room up here, and then the gasket's not in there, it's just touching it. So you gotta think probably 1/4 inch maybe so I'll lose a little bit of height, but it'll still be clear. And if it does hit later on, I can chop it out, flip it over, and make a little bit of a gap. But I'm feeling pretty good so far with how it's looking. Obviously the heads aren't on there, but the heads probably be about here. So I have this much room for the header to go on that side. And on this side, a little less room, but we can still manage getting a header in there, and we should be good. But yeah, same thing on this side. Instead of trying to have it so it's right on that edge, I'm gonna weld it to that back side and just get more weld on it, more strength. On the front side, I'll have to trim down and just weld it directly to the cross member. So to find those, I'll just trace out one of these on some paper and just trim it down until it's the perfect fit on what I want. Try to keep it at the same angle because I want to put that gusset in there. So it'll probably be something like that. And then I'll leave a little bit of a gap, so I'll probably measure it with the washer in there. So, or at least on just this side. So that way, sliding it in and out, be a little bit of room. So it's not too tight. That's all I'm trying to say. So, well, it's about time to get ready for work. So I think I am going to toss these tacks in there, get that mounted up, or get welded up. So I'll toss those in there, and then these front ones I'll hold off on, because I know if I leave it right here on the jack or on the engine hoist, it does start to droop down a little bit. So if I get these tacked on, hold it in place, we should be good to go. But yeah, might need to go that way a little bit. Yeah, let me fire up the welder, or I'm gonna grind these off, fire up the welder, get these welded on, and we should be good to go. Alright, so there we have it. Motor mounts are welded. Well, half of them are welded in. Must have to start getting ready for work. So in the front two, I can do in the morning. It shouldn't be too hard. Just trace the template out, see what I need to cut them down to size for, which probably be about 1 inch or 2 out, 1.5 inches maybe. Yeah, probably take 1 inch out, keep them parallel to this one, so that way I'll probably gusset the bottom, throw a gusset at the bottom, help strengthen it up. So yeah, we'll get those knocked out tomorrow. Be able to leave the motor in here, keep the transmission on the jack, and then eventually start working on transmission cross member. Alright, so got this side welded in. I need to turn the heat up a little bit more on that, but that side's in. This side actually messed up the first motor mount and just had to pretty much make another one. So luckily I had the same thickness of metal. This one I cut a little too short. Let's do this. Set up the tripod. Alright, so I cut it a little too short, or at the wrong angle also. So I cut it so it ended up here, which I needed it pretty much down here so I could gusset the bottom. So I was like, man, that's way off. That's way off. So yeah, it needed to be about down here. So what I did is trace that template out again and cut up another one. So this one should be good. The drill bit or the step bit really wasn't working, so luckily I was able to get it. But this one should be good. It's down far enough where I can run that gusset along the back side and strengthen that up. But yeah, let me get this welded on. Should be getting ready for work already, but hit the alarm a couple times, snooze button. But yeah, let me get this welded in, and then I'll pretty much be it. Or the motor mounts will be in. Still have to work on the transmission mount, and then get some more metal for the firewall, and the transmission tunnel. But other than that, we are good to go. Also got more parts back from powder coating. The last thing is the control arms up front. He had a little bit of problem with it, but he got that situated. But we do have all the trailing arms on. This one needs to be extended a little bit. Kick the rear end back out this way a little bit. But obviously, once they're all in, I'll have to measure it and get everything squared up again. Right now, it's just pretty much guesstimated for the rear end, which, like I said, might be a degree or two off once I adjust it, but for the most part, that's straight and lined up with the transmission, so we're good there. I did get the drive shaft loop in for this back cross member. So eventually I'll chop this up and weld that drive shaft loop in to clear the drive shaft. But yeah, so that'd be one other thing I have to do is knock that out. And then I have these little pedestals, so made 2 of them, and with me cutting up the floor and everything, it kind of droops down where the seats go. So these will go under the seat and in between that cross member, just to keep the seats and everything at right height or at normal height. So if I take the seats out or anything, the floor's not going to sag again, and just have a little bit more support. So I'm going to have to notch those up a little bit and get those welded on, and eventually take all the control arms and everything back out, undercoat it, and we should be good until we have to climb back under it to do the fuel rails, or the fuel lines and brake lines. But yeah, let me stop talking, get this welded up, and I'll cut you guys back on before I start getting ready for work. Oh, there we have it. Motor is officially mounted in there. Of course, it'll come back out once we start rebuilding it and everything, but motor mounts are done. Looking good. So I wish I got a little bit more heat in there, but they're pretty solid. But yeah, so motor mounts done. That's what I want to get done this week. We have a box from Speedway in here. We have a box from Michigan Motorsports. Spawn radiator. So obviously you got to stick with a PT radiator, and here's a 2-core radiator. I'm gonna throw a high CFM fan on it. Try to keep this thing as cool as possible. I mentioned earlier, the trailing arms are in, looking good, back in powder coat. I need to put all the brakes on and the axles on, so I have the instructions for that. So we'll get those on probably tomorrow. What else? That might be it. I'm still gonna get a package from my neighbor. He has the other component to this. Well, this is one of them. So we're just gonna rewire the whole thing, kind of like what I did with the Monty with the painless kit. My neighbor, he picked up the Terminator X for me, or at least got it off my porch so it wasn't sitting out. So we do have the wiring for it, the radiator, starting to get some motor stuff. Fuel seal, that's all checked off. Just need fuel lines, brake lines, the steering shaft with the Heim joints. So we could figure that out. Pedal box is coming, that is ordered. But yeah, that's what's coming. So we're gonna be busy, especially with the wiring. That might hold up for a little bit till I'm done with all the metal fabrication. But yeah, the steering shaft should just come out here, probably angle down and tie into the manual rack. Be pretty close with the headers, but yeah, definitely want to get the heads on here, kind of see what I'm looking at as far as clearance for the headers, if I'm going to cut out more of the floor or what's going to happen. So yeah, stay tuned. But yeah, I need to start getting ready for work. I already hit the snooze button a couple times. Yeah. But that's it for this one. Like I said, I told you guys everything that's coming up or that we have planned. Hair's still there. We're not cutting it till the PT's running. I'm gonna try to stick to it. But yeah, other than that, let me put all this away and get ready for work. All right, I know I said I was gonna get the seat out and measure for like the pedal box. I already sat in there, and I think I'm definitely gonna have to do the forward-facing pedal box because there's not enough room for like the master cylinders and the reservoirs where the firewall's going to be, so everything's going to have to come forward and build a little platform for it to hide underneath. So it's not bolted down, so a little sketchy. But yeah, if I'm driving, pedals be about here. There's not enough room behind it for all the hydraulic fluid and what do I say, the master cylinders and the reservoirs. So definitely have to raise it up a little bit. So pretty much be like that. Pedal be here, and everything else will be underneath. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and order that today, along with a few other smaller items, like a transmission mount, and I'm pretty sure there's some other things I can think about as soon as I get inside, but right now can't think about it. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. Maybe a shifter, but nah, it's a big ticket item. I'd have to wait for that. But yeah, definitely next month or next paycheck, we'll do all the motor stuff, order the rest of that, order the radiator, oil cooler, transmission cooler, and fuel lines. I was going to do that the other day, so just debating on which style I want. It'll probably be a return style system, so order enough line for that, fittings, and we'll go from there. Sound deadening maybe, but we'll see. Probably be about a $500 night. But yeah, let's call it a day. I'll edit the video for the trunk stuff, and then we'll finish the video for the motor mounts, transmission mount, or the position in the morning. So yeah.